Hey, what is up everybody? Sean here, and I've got some really exciting news today because they've just announced the newest round of stimulus check, the newest update on the unemployment extension, more updates on the PPP program, lawsuit protections, and all this is under the newest act that is actually being passed. So there's not some sort of proposed theory like we've been hearing all sorts of things on, like the free rent and mortgages that were getting pushed around for a while, the $2,000 a month for the next so many months, or $1,000 a month for the next year. This is actually an act that is getting passed, the HEALS Act, which stands for the Health, Economic Assistance, Liability Protection and Schools. So if you are as excited as I am, make sure you smash that like button with everything you have, obliterate it, destroy it, freaking crush that like button for me, and let's hop into this. Okay, so let's first talk about the newest stimulus check that's going to be provided under this HEALS Act. If you remember with the CARES Act, the rules were if you made $75,000 or less, you would receive $1,200, and also you would be receiving a $500 check for every dependent under the age of 17. That's going to remain the same with the HEALS Act. So if you received a $1,200 stimulus check before, then it's pretty much going to be assumed that you're going to be receiving another $1,200. Now, there's a little bit of a difference with the HEALS Act, and that is that you can now claim dependents between the age of 17 and 24 to receive an additional $500. The HEALS Act, if you make $75,000 or less, you're going to receive $1,200. If you have dependents under the age of 24, you're going to be receiving an additional $500. Okay, so what about the people who make more than $75,000? How much are you getting? If you make more than $75,000, you will receive $5 less for every $100 you make over $75,000, or $150,000 if you're married. So that means that if you make around $99,000 as a single person, odds are you're going to be getting $0, unfortunately, with the stimulus check. Now, overall, I think this is pretty good, and this has a pretty similar thing to the CARES Act. Nothing that's too different here, but it's awesome to hear that we are all going to be getting a $1,200 stimulus check if you meet the criteria. Okay, so the next thing we need to be talking about here is the unemployment extension. And this is the thing I know that so many people have been waiting for, that so many people have been on edge for, because like I said, as of right now, about 30 million Americans are unemployed, and many of those people are going to be losing their $600 a week benefits that they've been receiving since the CARES Act was instilled. There's been so much back and forth over the last few months on how much people should be getting, or if people should be getting an unemployment extension at all. You have one side who is saying that $600 is way too much money. There's too many people that are making more money on unemployment than they were even when they were working. Even if they're making about the same, why on earth would anybody go back to work if they can make just as much money sitting around at home and just collect checks? Then you have the other side who's proposing that this is actually helping the economy. It's helping us keep afloat, meaning that people are taking that money and they're buying, different items. They're going to restaurants. They're using that, and it's actually helping circulate that money into the economy. So after much and much debate back and forth, we have finally come to somewhat of an agreement, and that is that we're not going to be receiving $600 a week, but more than likely we're going to be receiving about $200 a week every week up through September. Now, this is quite a drastic drop in what people have been receiving, and this does mean that for some people, this is really going to put them in a financial pinch, which is really unfortunate because this is such a scary time, and so many people who want to work, who want to get back to work, are not able to find jobs, or they're still furloughed and their company is not rehiring at the moment. Now, an interesting point to add into this is that while you are going to be receiving only $200 a week up through September, there is going to be a shift at that point. After September, they're going to shift to 70% of your previous income before you were unemployed. This is kind of a middle ground, and honestly, this is kind of what I figured if you kind of watched some of my other videos. I really didn't think that the $600 a week was going to pass because so many people on one side were just so adamantly against paying another $600 a week. But please keep in mind that this, once again, is just the core. So think of this as a worst case scenario, because it's very likely that as we move along, other amendments or things like that will get added on to this. And so there's a very high likelihood that things could change moving forward. It's probably not going to change for the worst. If anything, it's probably going to change for the better. So we can think of this $200 a week. While it's not really what we were probably all wanting to hear, it's more like the worst case scenario, and there is a chance that maybe it does get better moving forward. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the PPP program. For those of you who are unaware, back when the CARES Act was enacted, they had a thing called the PPP program, which was a payroll protection program, and this was to help companies and businesses stay afloat, help with paying payroll, paying rents, and basic dues and bills and necessities to keep the business afloat. Now, this was a really awesome idea, and it was meant to help so many small businesses and larger businesses during this crazy time. Unfortunately, like most things, a lot of people took advantage of it, and you had all kinds of crazy companies like Shake Shack, you had billionaires, and all these different people who were basically receiving insane amounts of payouts, millions and millions of dollars of money that they actually did not need, and were using that money to pay themselves more money, or they're using it to just kind of buy whatever they wanted. So this second round, they have put in a new update on the PPP program. They are bringing it back. However, there's going to be more rules and stipulations so that so many people who don't really need it cannot take advantage of it. So with the newest PPP program, the few rules that are set in are that you cannot receive it if you have more than 300 employees. If you have 300 employees or less, had a 50% reduction in revenue, you can be eligible for the PPP program. Now, overall, I think this is probably pretty fair, because if your business is doing just as well as it was before or doing better, then you don't really need the actual payment protection program. You're just kind of using it to get extra money in your pocket, which I understand in some way. If you can get it and it's free, why not? In the HEALS Act, there's going to be $190 billion pushed towards the PPP program to help these types of businesses. So that should substantially provide a lot of benefit to companies that need it most. Another new thing about the HEALS Act is they have a new thing called the lawsuit protection. And this is aimed for businesses, doctors, and schools to make sure there are no crazy frivolous lawsuits as we begin to reopen the economy. A few exceptions, which is like gross negligence or just complete willful misconduct. They've also pushed $105 billion to go towards schools and the reopening of schools, and that includes colleges, other schools like high schools, middle schools, all stuff like that. They've also added $16 billion for increased testing for COVID-19, and about $26 billion towards further testing and vaccine development. Now, one thing that I found really interesting that they added into this HEALS Act is that they're actually doing a 100% meal deduction benefit into this. So what does that mean? So before this, essentially, if you were a business and you went out to dinner or you had bought a meal for your business meeting or your company or whatever, you could essentially deduct 50% of that expense and put it off your top line of your revenue to decrease your tax liability or potential income that you pay taxes on. With this new act, it's actually going to allow a 100% meal deduction, meaning that if you go out and you spend $100 on a dinner or $200 on a dinner for your business, you can use that as a 100% write-off off your total revenue, lowering your tax deduction. Now, you might be thinking, like, why on earth would they be doing this? My guess is that the biggest reason of doing this is to try and incentivize going out to eat and to be pushing people to go out to restaurants and trying to keep these small businesses, the small restaurants afloat during this pandemic. So overall, this is actually a pretty awesome act. Like I said, this is the main framework and baseline of the act. It has not been passed yet, but it has been pretty much spoken and guaranteed that that core program, the unemployment extension, stimulus check, all those things are going to be a part of it, and they're just kind of fine-combing the details of exactly when this is going to start. Okay, so when is all this going to be officially passed? Well, as of right now, it sounds like this is going to be officially passed somewhere around August 7th. Reason being is that the government is going to be going on another recess between August 10th and September 7th. So if they don't pass it before then, we might be pretty screwed, because that means that we can't pass anything in between that time. So with that being said, if we get this thing passed by August 7th, then more than likely our stimulus checks would start rolling out sometime probably by the end of August. Hopefully we'd have a much quicker turnaround this stuff, because now the federal government has all of our information, so there shouldn't be so much craziness and transition period as there was the first time when all these people that were eligible were not receiving their benefits because, we were trying to collect all that information. Anyways, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know what your thoughts are below about the stimulus check, the $200 a week. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, I know it's a lot less than what we thought. Is that better than nothing? What are your thoughts on that? But if you like this video, make sure you smash that like button, hit the subscribe button for me if you can. It means the world to me. And the other thing too is make sure you stay safe out there. Keep checking my channel for newest updates. And I wish you all the best during this crazy time.